But you see, the concept is oppress them to a point when you give them what is theirs by right, they will think is an advantage.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I hope you're well from whenever you're watching this channel. One of the few pastors who did not fall to the schemes of Kenya Kwanza is one Pastor T-MWANGI. Of course, we know that Pastor Ezekiel also did not fall into that trap. So Pastor T-MWANGI has been steadfast, reminding this government about what it is not doing and what it ought to do. In a video that I'm about to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, Pastor T-MWANGI seems to be delivering a message to William Ruto and the team that isiwe kwamba whatever you're doing ionekane kwamba it's a favor to us citizens. Let it be known that that which you're doing is actually the reason why you are in that office. So this message was delivered to the Kenya Kwanza. Pastor T-MWANGI seems to be looking at the economical challenges or the financial challenges of Kenyans and reminding Kenyans that the government is not helping or is not doing Kenyans a favor, but the government is merely doing what it is supposed to do. So in a very short video, watch this message from Pastor T-MWANGI.
But you see, the concept is oppress them to a point when you give them what is theirs by right, they will think is an advantage. When a politician builds a road, builds a school, he's not helping us. He's doing what we told him to do with our money. It is not a favor. We pay taxes. Those are not places to brag. Tumewafungulia barabara. No, sir. We are paying tax. And that's why we don't just need God-fearing leaders. Even the devil is God-fearing. We need managers.
Very well. That is what I was telling you, ladies and gentlemen. You know, if you look at the issues here in Kenya right now, especially the story of dollar, you know, when William Ruto took over, dollar was at around 119, 120 there. And I mentioned this in a previous analysis. It was at 119, 120 there. So that is the time he took over. In fact, wakati huo watu walikuwa wanalia ukisema kwamba hii dola iko juu sana. 119, 120. Towards the end of last year, dollar had shot to 170. A margin of around 50. An increment of 50. That is the value, the increment in terms of value between what dollar, the value of dollar and the Kenya shilling. And many people said the Kenya shilling was deteriorating in terms of value. If you look at the Tanzanian value, Tanzania shillings, the value ilikuwa inakuwa stable against the dollar. But the Kenyan's case, it was a bit different. A thing that saw prices of commodity escalate. So I want us to go deeper into this video that Pastor T-MWANGI has shared and the relationship between the video and what Kenyans are faced with. But before you do that, please take 1 second, go there, there's a button written subscribe, just hit it once, and then there's a button with this symbol that thumbs up, hit it once. If you do that, YouTube shares this video to other people not part of our audience. To those who supported us before, thank you so much for that support. So Pastor T-MWANGI's message reminds us of what Kenyans are going through and how the Kenya Kwanza government is bragging. When dollar had reached a peak of 170, the same people in Kenya Kwanza said dollar will reduce. I like using the example of dollar because that is an example that resonates well with most people. Dollar, the moment it increases, it affects imports. You pay more dollars for an import. The people who are likely to benefit are the ones who are exporting because they will get more dollars. But if you're importing, you will be affected. But you find that most of the things which are consumed here are imported. That means if you import a commodity to be sold locally, you will pay more in terms of dollars. And since you'll be paying more in terms of dollars, as a businessman, you will be required to increase the price a bit so that you can get profit out of it. Isiwe tu ni biashara ya kupotea. But you see that the people who are exporting, it is an advantage to them because they will export a product, they will be paid in dollars. So, but most people will be affected by the import because most people are affected by the import. If you go to the issue of mafuta, let's just take for example mafuta, or the issue of oil. When they procure oil as a government, their expectation is that that oil procurement will be paid in dollars. Of course, there was the G2G model, which never worked. The idea of the G2G was to pay in Kenya shilling. They never thought for a once that dollar would affect this Kenya shilling. So dollar affected the Kenya shilling, and that explains why they had to withdraw that policy and resort back to payment in dollars. So why am I using that example? It is, to be honest, right now the government was just thumping, saying that watapunguza dollar mpaka the end of March or the end of February, dollar itakuwa at 130. Of course, we know that right now the dollar is still retails at 147, so it's not 130 as projected before. So ndio maana Pastor T-MWANGI anasema kwamba hao watu wanapojisifu, isiwe tu wanajisifu hata wanatufanyia favor. Nobody is doing another a favor. These jobs are the jobs that we give them. We pay taxes so that they can do the delivery to Kenyans. There was a time last year there when there was commotion, there was a bit confusion when Rigathi Gachagua mentioned the term shares. You remember that narrative of shares? That narrative of shares never sat well with people like Raila Amolo Odinga, who went to Nyanza and said kila region iko na haki ya kupata maendeleo, iko na haki ya appointments kwa sababu kila region inalipa ushuru. So but that time Gachagua kept maintaining that kuna mambo na shares, kuna wale ambao walipiga kura wengi watapata kazi nyingi than wale ambao hawakupiga kura. Even though William Ruto did buy that idea and he publicly made it clear that he never bought that idea of shares, but if you look at the things he was doing in the appointments he was dishing out, those appointments were majorly on Mount Kenya and Rift Valley. So unapata kwamba yeye publicly alikuwa na denounce shares, but behind the scenes he was embracing the shareholding narrative. That is what we observed, and that is what has been happening, especially with the way projects are being dished out. So Pastor T-MWANGI says, isiwe ati akikuja Mount Kenya akisema nimewafungulia barabara so namklapia. Hapana, hiyo ni kazi yake. He should be telling us about the things he does. Isiwe ati ukienda kufungua dam kule siji Kirinyaga, iwe ni favor wamefanyia wananchi. That is what Pastor T-MWANGI is trying to tell this regime. So the message, if you look at it, despite the fact that he mentioned MCAs and MPs, but the message was being delivered to the presidency. That is what I could decipher from that message, ladies and gentlemen. What do you make of this message from Pastor T-MWANGI telling the people about what they ought to do? They ought not to bow down to the politicians simply because wamefanya kazi fulani. Pana, hiyo ni kazi ambao wanafaa wafanye, kwa sababu hiyo ndio maana wanalipa mshahara. Hawalipi mshahara ndio kaibunge tu. Wanalipa mshahara ili walete maendeleo. So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you make of that analysis? Just go below the comment section and tell us what your observations are regarding that which Pastor T-MWANGI has said. So until we catch up again, stay safe and stay blessed.